Hey, Jeannie here. In this video, I'm going to show you a few techniques on doing fur in oils using these little brushes that I love so much. So let's get to it. So to start with, we're going to use this little 1/4-inch filbert rake. They call it a grainer, but it's from Princeton. It's one of my favorite companies. Now I'm just going to start loading out the very tip of this brush to start highlighting the back of the bear. Every now and then you're going to hear a rooster out there. I do live on a farm. Rooster is competing with the rooster down below. It's so funny. Anyway, okay, we're just going to keep bringing that white in across his back and down the sides of his body into the muscles. Going to grab some of that Naples yellow, and in a minute we're going to grab the 1/4-inch or 1/8-inch rake. It's from a different company. I'll show you a picture of that one too. And we're just going to bring that, just the tip of the brush loaded on, and coming down the side of his body and just kind of layering that in. And we're going to go into the cadmium orange now, because we're going to bring like a rainbow effect of color from light to dark down into the side of his body, because we want that backlighting on the top side of the body coming down the muscles. And make sure that you go in the direction that the fur is going. Like, see how I start to brush it down his neck in a different direction, and then backwards and forwards towards the back. Now I've got that little 1/8-inch rake, and now I'm going to start bringing in on the ears. I've grabbed that one because it's really small and I can get into the tight spots. Now, depending on what canvas your size you're using and what size your bear is, of course you're going to use different brushes, and it takes practice. You just got to keep practicing. Excuse me. Now I'm just going to keep bringing in that orange. Now, I have to tell you, when I started this painting, I started with the sky and the trees, and somehow I accidentally deleted all my footage. So I thought, okay, I can redeem this painting by showing you how to paint a bear. So I probably will do some more videos on skies. And so sorry about that. If you wanted to paint a sky, I will be bringing in some more videos in the future, different things, and a sky will be included in those paintings. So now I'm just kind of chiseling around his eye, always being sure that I bring that paint in the right direction. I'm making my strokes the right direction. Now I'm going to highlight the very edge and underneath his neck with some lighter colors, white and Naples yellow, just to lighten up. Now this grizzly was a really blonde colored grizzly. I took the pictures in Montana. This actual trail was a trail I hiked up with a friend. Of course, always carrying bear spray on my holster, ready, always being alert. And so I thought I'd add him in there on the trail. So, and I'll be doing some other details to this painting, but this is a good study on painting a bear, painting fur, what brushes to use, how to highlight, how to go the direction of the fur, and keep just the tips of the bristles on the brush loaded. Always, once in a while, you'll see me in another video pinching my brush through a paper towel. You want to always pinch it flat on the brush, and it pulls the excess paint off the brush without ruining your brush. You don't ever want to scrub your brush through the paper towel, especially these brushes. You want to keep that nice form on those filberts, and that's why I love the filbert, that rounded tip, because I can maneuver it going in different directions, holding that brush in a different angle to create all those little bends in the fur and all those ripples in his muscles. Just always pay attention to which direction your fur is going, and that's the way you want to pull your brush. So now I'm pulling down across his belly and into his little flanks. Big bear, big, strong bear. So I'm coming into the shadowy areas. Now we'll be taking a break in a few minutes here, take you on a little hike. So it's just, you can see the little rake marks that brush makes. I love it. I love this little brush. It's very thin, and so it won't clog up with paint. That's the problem. You get too much paint on the brush and it's going to jam up and you're not going to be able to get that fur effect. Now I'm bringing that highlight up on his shoulder because as the sun hits his back, it rolls down the shoulder and creates more dimension in the muscle tones of the fur. And I'm just kind of tinkering around, just continuing to fill in that fur, pulling that brush through. We're always bringing in that Naples yellow and orange first so that I can add those darker colors to it. Now I'm going to go into that oxide, orange oxide. That's a great color. And now I've got my little brush again so I can maneuver around his little face. Well, his little face in the painting. I'm using these 6x8s, of course, because it's easier for me to get these paintings done quicker for the video and show you some techniques. So I explain that a couple times, but good to think about it because sometimes you might think, why are you doing such a tiny canvas? This is why. So I like to do little intricate things too anyway. So, but a bigger canvas would work better for you if you're a beginner especially. So let's take a little break and take a little hike. Let this sit. I am all bundled up. We're headed down the misty woods to see what we can find. And I have a little creek I want to show you. Pretty special to me. Always something to see. So let's get down the trail and I'll see you in a sec. Lewis is such a good boy. He's scouting on up ahead of me. You? Here he comes. There's your buddy. Good boy. Good boy, Lulu. Here's a good boy. Let's go. It's been raining pretty good around here. All these little springs have been springing up. There's one favorite spot where my old buddy Stuart, who was my black lab mix, used to like to drink out of it. This one spot. And Lewis is a student of my old buddy Stuart. Before Stuart passed away, he was 15 plus years old. Maybe I could find a picture to overlay in here. But this little spot right here, he always come down these trails in his younger years. Come running down here and check that out. So pretty. I just love water. So much to see in water. I wish the sun was shining, but it's very, very cold. I'll let you listen to it. Lewis likes the little pond too. So I hope you've liked this little break, little journey into the woods. I always like to add something fun in my day. Look at my little lookout. He's a good boy. He's only 3. Like I said, Stuart, he trained him for a couple years before he died last year. I miss that old boy. He went everywhere with me. Montana, Wyoming, Alaska. And now I got this guy. Anyway, the video that we're doing is from some of the photos that I took in Glacier. Let you see the valley there, where the stream is going down. But yeah, I loved going hiking and lots of bear encounters and moose, and I have yet to paint so many things that came out of those adventures. So let's go for just a little bit short walk up on the hill here, and then we'll get back to the studio. So I'm so glad you're joining me. I hope you're enjoying. See you in a minute. Here we go up the hill. Lewis is keeping an eye out, finding trees to mark his territory. We want to see that. Go down the trail. It's good to have a dog, especially when you're walking alone. And of course your bear spray in here. So as we head back to the studio, I want to just thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you're learning something from these tutorials I'm teaching on these little canvases. And I do it on the small ones, excuse me, because they're quicker for me to turn out. And you could do them on any size canvas you want. And you can pause and rewind and just practice. Just keep practicing. And coming up these hills a little bit out of breath. I'm ready to go up a big one now. So I'll see you back at the studio. Thanks again so much for joining me. See you in a sec. So wasn't that fun? Here we are back at it though. Got my little brush, my little 1/8 incher. I'm just going to comb in his nose now, pulling that paint downwards. Always just very little paint on the tip of my brush. Now I'm going to highlight the top of his nose with some white with my little liner brush. Now you can use whatever liner brush is comfortable to you. I like ones that aren't too long. This one is probably about 1/4 inch long on the bristles, and they're always synthetic. I never use, well, I can't say never. Sometimes I'll use those large bristle oil brushes, but I like using the synthetic paint brushes. Sometimes they'll say they're used for acrylics and watercolor, but I use them for oils because they give me such a soft flex and a touch that I like for my detailed work, and just the application of the brush. I'm bringing in, of course, his leather eye and his nose. I've got the blue, the ultramarine blue and black there, and I pull those two colors together to get a deeper black with just a little blue tint to it, so it doesn't dull the black. The black tends to be dull by itself, so I always like to add that ultramarine blue to it. Sometimes you can take like a alizarin crimson and a ultramarine blue, and you can get a nice black as well. But now I'm pulling that crimson into the oxide color. Notice how I roll the brush so that I get the paint to get to the tip of the brush. I get enough oil in there. I use the M-gram walnut oil. Of course, I always use these M-gram paints because they are at least toxic and so brilliant. I just love the M-gram paints. The walnut oil in the paint. So you can find those like on Jerry's Artorama. Sometimes you can find them on Amazon in little kits or by singles. Blick Art also carries them. Excuse me. That's what happens when I talk a lot. Been drinking some hot tea and coffee too to help with my... Anyway, okay, now I've got some white and I'm just going in there and softening those details. Now, mind you, my canvas background is dry, so I'm able to get in there without making a mess. But if it's wet, you can use the dowel stick that you've seen probably in some of my other videos. I use that to balance my hand on if I'm working over the top of a wet painting. So you're just going to keep bringing in those soft details, bringing in some fur hanging down off of his throat area and neck. Just kind of working in those details, final details around his face and nose, shaping it better. I just love to do the detail. Okay, we're just going to continue on highlighting down his neck with some white and that little liner brush. Just fill in all that nice thick neck there. Continue on with the Naples yellow, white, Naples yellow, cat orange, then down into the deeper colors. Just continue to chisel around and shape the nose and the face and the muzzle and the mouth. Of course, yours is probably going to be much bigger than mine, so that's okay. Now we're just going to highlight down the back. We're going to, the back of his front arm and down the bottom of the neck. Continuing to fill in all that nice fur. Just, you're like petting him, grooming him. The only time you can pet a bear. That's funny. Yep, I wouldn't want to pet that guy. Wouldn't want to be anywhere near him, although I have encountered bears on the trail. Very intense stress. So now I'm just going to keep shadowing with the alizarin crimson and the orange oxide, make a nice rich brown color, which kind of glows reddish color. And that matches the background too. Kind of just gives it a little extra punch when you add those different colors together. I'm going to shadow down his legs. One time we ran into a huge black bear in Glacier, Montana, and he had jet black legs and a cinnamon colored top, much like this guy, but really black legs. And we knew it wasn't a grizzly by he had no hunch on his back. And I'm going to put a little bit more of a hunch here on the shoulder area here pretty soon, because I want to beef him up a little bit. But that was an intense encounter, tell you what. We stood him down though, stood strong with our bear spray ready, and he backed off and went up into the brush. So now I'm going back to that 1/4 inch and bringing in some of that black with the blue and included into it, so it makes a nice deeper black, because a lot of times you can add that ultramarine blue to the black, get a nice strong black color. I love doing that. Now we're just gonna keep on adding in all that fur, always making sure your brush is brushing downwards on some of the areas where his fur has changed directions. And I'm gonna come up front. Really pay attention. Look at some grizzly bear photographs so you can kind of see how the fur goes. Or just look at this one as the end result so that you can see how I position that fur. Really have to study your wildlife intensely if you really want to get it accurate. But this is really good for practice, even on a small scale, and what brushes to use. And I'm hoping, and please leave me a comment below if you're liking this, and give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more of these videos. I really appreciate your support in helping my channel grow and reach other people that might want to learn how to paint in oils, especially wildlife and detailed paintings that I love to do, and all the little techniques that I've learned over the years. And if you're interested in keeping up with me, please go ahead and go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter so that you can see all the fun stuff that gets to come up in the future. I'm really working on thinking about creating some DVDs to teach more extensive real-time paintings. So if you want to learn, or if you just want to keep up and get gifts and deals and all kinds of fun stuff, and keep you posted on what's going on and new paintings that come up on my website and gift ideas. And go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter on my website. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you so much. You can see here I'm fluffing up his ears with a little liner brush now. They really have fluffy ears. Here, okay, now as I mentioned before, I'm adding that little grizzly hunch on the back of his back and beefing up his muzzle. The males, the boars, they're called boars, the males, and sows, the females, because they're related to pigs. So the boars have a little bit broader of a muzzle, and they have a good grizzly hunch on their back, which really shows that they're grizzly and not a black bear. Now I'm going to put those claws in using that white and ultramarine blue and a little bit of black. Makes a nice shiny gray rather than just white. Gives it that little bit of a shadow that goes along with the darker, and the back feet don't have as detailed. Okay, now we're going to bring in a lot of that shadow that's under the bear to ground him. He's got to be grounded. He's got to have some shadow under there. So I'm just going to keep on working that shadow in there with that ultramarine blue and black, tipping the brush upward to kind of create some little rocks and grasses underneath him, and kind of bringing that shadow into the path to show where he's going. Now I'm going to get back to that 1/4 inch rake and bring in some more details of fur into the back and the belly. Always, again, paying attention to which direction that fur is going. Tip the brush onto its side to get some longer strokes, and then back onto its edge to get that shorter strokes. And I always remember that the longer your strokes, the longer the fur appears to be, the shorter the fur appears to be. So be careful not to stroke all the way through your, and kind of cut into it each layer of fur by angling that brush in. Now I'm back to my little one. Whenever I get into these smaller areas, I use the smaller rake so that I can really get in there without messing the painting up. Adding always that oxide. Now I'm back to my liner so I can tighten up those details around the face. Really important to get that character. They've got a nice ridge across the top of their head, like a kind of a little valley up in their forehead. Amazing power in their heads. Like I say, pay attention to what grizzlies look like. Go ahead and watch some videos. Look up some videos and some photographs of grizzlies so you can kind of get the feel of what I'm talking about here. I'm going to keep on continuing with that little liner brush to bring in those smaller details. I still have to bring in more fur across his neck because it was looking a little uneven, so I'm pulling that paint down on the palette and then I'm pushing inward to get the paint to get to the tip of the brush. So I'm going to keep on continuing with all of this color and highlighting and just little details that I want to touch up on. So I will let you watch the rest, and but be sure and stick around to the end so you can watch me finish out all these details. It's really important as you learn. Just keep watching. And thanks again. I'll see you soon on the next video.